Would you like to know how to add 10 extra new patients each and every month? That's 120 extra new patients per year. And I'm going to show you how that adds up to just shy of $750,000 lifetime value. Would you like to know how to do that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now. What I'm sharing today, it's not guesswork. This is purely data-driven. And if you've got a pencil, this would be a good one to write stuff down, because there's a little bit of data that you should know about, and it will help you understand why it's so critical that you focus on this. All right, so let's talk about some of the data. Do you know how much an average patient is lifetime value? So it's basically what I call ALV, the average lifetime value of a patient in your practice. For a general dentist, I can give you a number. For a general dentist across the country, the average is just over $6,200 average lifetime value. So if you're a GP and you don't know your average lifetime value, just write down ALV equals roughly $6,200. Why is that an important number to know? Well, let's do some math. What if you were to add, let's say, just 2 or 3, 2.5, 2 or 3 more new patients a week, extra new patients beyond whatever your current flow is. So that's not a crazy number. It's not going to jam up your schedule, but it's just a couple more per week. And let's say that averages out, there's 4.33 weeks in a month. So let's say it's 10 new patients a month. So 10 more new patients a month currently than you're seeing. And that adds up to about 120 a year. So far the math is pretty easy, but the math gets pretty stunning. It's all easy, but it gets pretty stunning, because if you take 120 extra new patients a year, which is just 2.5 per week more than you're currently seeing, and you multiply that by the $6,200 average lifetime value in a general practice, it's just shy of, it's a couple $1,000s shy of $750,000 average lifetime value. Well, Tom, that's lifetime value, but what about, we can't think lifetime. How long is a lifetime of an average patient? Well, in a general practice, in a GP office, the average patient will stay for 6 years before some of them are going to pass away, others are going to be moving to a different area, and others didn't move, but they just switched dentists. So the average lifespan of a patient in a general practice is 6 years. How much are they going to spend of that ALV, of that $6,200 during their first year with you? Well, I'm going to use a very conservative number, because as you guys know, when a new patient comes in, that's often the time that they have something that they wanted to get done, something that they needed, whether it's an emergency that turns into a larger case. So a significant portion of the new patient's care is often done in that first year. But I'm going to use a super conservative number and say, let's say it was only 25%. Let's say there wasn't anything major they needed right away, and you did a couple of crowns or some gum work and some fillings or whatever. And let's say it was just 25% of their lifetime value was spent in that first year. So if the lifetime value of 10 new patients a month, 120 a year, works out to just shy of $750,000 total lifetime value, in that first year, conservatively, you're looking at about $186,000. So this is, again, really important to write these things down. 10 new patients a month, more than you're currently seeing, roughly $186,000 a year. In that first year. The cool thing is, it's an annuity, because if you're adding 10 more new patients, and let's say you just stayed steady at that number. So let's say currently you're getting 23 new patients a month, which is a little bit below what I'd like to see, but let's say you're at 23, and you pop that to 33, and you just stayed there for the next X number of years, and you probably won't, you'll probably continue to grow. But let's say you did stay at 33. That extra 10, the $186,000 that you get in that first year, it doesn't stop then, because you're going to get the rest of the 3/4 of that divided over the next 5 years of their average lifespan. So meanwhile, next year you're bringing in that extra 10 new patients per month. So the numbers can be staggering. If you only have 5 years left to practice and you did this in the next 5 years, in other words, you just added that pop of 9 or 10 more new patients a month starting in the next month or so, next 30 days, you'll see the value of your practice for the sale, but also the money that you're taking in right now, radically change, radical improvement. And another thing about the money, if you take let's say it's 190, call it $200,000 just for a round number. So you take $200,000 added to your practice. Let's say your practice has 70 or 80% overhead. For a GP office, that's not unusual these days. So if you have 70% overhead, 30% net profit, well, that 200,000, you don't make 30% net profit on that. You make 85% net profit on that next 200,000. Well, why, if I have 70 or 80% overhead, how can I make so much of a percentage net profit on that? It's simple, because 15%, let's say 12 to 15% is your variable expenses. That would be lab and supply. Lab and supply, you're probably not at 15. You're probably about 12%. So, but I'm going to give you 15%. So let's say it's 15. You still have 85% left there that you no longer have. That's all going to be net profit because your variable expenses are already covered. You're not going to add new team members or new equipment or new facility, new operatory. You're not going to change anything in your fixed overhead to add 10 more patients. Now, if you're talking about doubling or tripling your new patient flow, there's a lot of fixed overhead increases there. But to add a couple a week, there are no fixed overhead increases. Over the last 15 years, my team and I have analyzed over 1 million inbound calls of new patients to dental practices in the United States, and we have some interesting data, and this is where the rubber meets the road. Now that you know the value of adding that kind of new patient flow, know this number. 26.7% of the time that a new patient calls, it goes to voicemail. Write it down. 26.7% of the time that a new patient calls a dental practice, it goes to voicemail. There's nobody to pick it up. Unless it was an amazing referral by Betty Jones, your wonderful patient who said, you've got to go, this is the only dentist to see. But unless it was an amazing referral, they're just going to call the next doctor on Google. They're not going to leave a message. And even if they leave a message, they're still going to just call the next doctor on Google. If they can get somebody to pick up live, that's the one they're going to schedule with. All right. So the voicemail is killing your new patient flow. It's killing your new patient flow. When is this happening? It's happening after hours. Maybe you close at 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever time in the afternoon or early evening you close. Happens for several hours after hours. It frequently happens early morning. They're getting up. They've got a toothache. They got a broken tooth. They're trying to just handle some stuff for the family, set up some cleaning, whatever. And they're calling your office before you guys are in. It happens a lot on weekends, and you guys know that. You come back to all these messages, and many of whom you'll never reach them. And even if you reach them, they've already scheduled with somebody else. And it's also happening holidays and on holidays as well. It also happens during the middle of the day when you're open, and you're just so slammed that whoever you've got, you maybe get 2 team members or even 3, whatever you've got at the front desk, they just can't handle it all the time. Sometimes there's somebody coming in. Sometimes there's somebody going out. They're handling a big case. Maybe Mrs. Jones is coming out to schedule a $15,000 case, $20,000 case, and they can't pick up another line. They just can't pick up another phone call, and they just missed another new patient. Each time they miss, it's $6,200. So when I sent out the information about this particular live stream, I said there are 3 words to solve this. The 3 words, write these down, and it's so simple. Answer your phone. Answer your phone when it rings. And that means nights, early mornings, holidays. When your current team can't pick up enough, you need to pick up that phone so that your phone can't go to voicemail if you want to make the kind of money that you can be making based on the people who are already calling your practice. Whatever you're spending on marketing right now, you don't have to change a dime of that to add 120 extra new patients a year. You just need to pick up the phone when it's ringing and schedule them, not just take a message. I know some of you are using answering services, which is fine. But if those answering services aren't scheduling the new patient, then the answering service is no better than voicemail. It just isn't. You can do this yourself, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's super simple. You can do this yourself. Basically, what some offices do, and by the way, I'm going to give you a caveat here. There's a right way to do this legally, and there's a way that most dentists don't realize is not legal from an HR standpoint, and it can get you into an enormous problem financially down the road. So I'm gonna be really clear on how to do it and how not. Now, I'm not an attorney. My usual disclaimer: you should check with your attorney, but I can tell you that we've checked with HR attorneys, and I'm quite clear on what the law is on this. So here's what you can do to solve this problem. I'm going to give you a couple of different ways you can solve it. One way would be just have a dedicated cell phone, not their personal cell phones, but a dedicated cell phone that is the office cell phone that anytime your phone rings and it can't be picked up within 2 rings, it patches through to that cell phone. So let's say it's 8 o'clock at night, or it's 10 o'clock at night, or it's 7 a.m. in the morning, or it's a holiday, it's July 4th, or any weekend. Anytime that phone goes 2 rings and your desk staff, your reception staff isn't there to pick it up or can't pick it up, it goes right to the cell phone, and then one of your other team members who is carrying that dedicated cell phone during these nights, weekends, holidays, before hours, all these times, they answer it, and they have the ability to schedule right then and there. So they need to be, so again, taking a message isn't going to do it. They need to be able to schedule right then and there. But that sounds pretty simple, and it is. So what's the HR issue? The HR issue is it's done wrong 99% of the time. And again, I have spoken to HR attorneys, and here's the issue. If you're having them carry a cell phone, and you're having them carrying it after hours when they're not normally on the clock, and if you have any expectation that they're going to pick up that call when it rings, so let's say they're with their family, their 2 kids and their husband or wife, and they're at dinner, or they're at a barbecue, or they're out at the lake, or they're watching a movie, whatever they're doing during their off hours, and they've got your cell phone. If there's any expectation, if you give them the expectation, if you say, yeah, when it rings, I want you to pick it up, even if you're doing something else, then you need to pay them for all the hours that they carry it. Now, that causes 2 problems financially. One is, let's say they work, I don't know, 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week, whatever they're working. 35 hours is pretty typical. Let's say they're working 35 hours, and you want them to answer your phone should be answered 116 hours a week. Now, that includes all the hours you're open, but total, there are 116 hours we find that new patients will typically call. So if you expect them to answer it 116 hours a week, even if you only wanted them to answer it an extra 40 hours after hours, whatever, a week, then that's an extra 40 hours times whatever you normally pay them. So it can get really expensive. But the thing that kills it even worse is that's going to throw them in an overtime huge number. So you also have to pay them time and a half for most of the time that they're carrying the phone. Now, again, I'm not an attorney, but what has been explained to me by the HR attorneys is if you tell them, don't worry about picking it up when it rings. If you're doing something, you're with a friend, you're with a family, you're out on a bike ride, you're at a movie, you're on the lake, whatever you're doing something else, you don't need to pick it up. You can go to voicemail later when you have some time. Well, that's fine, but now you're back in the exact same situation you were in before because that person has already called somebody else. So just beware that doing it without paying them for carrying the phone on all of those hours, and you can check with your attorney, your own HR attorney in your state, but the HR firm that I spoke with is in all 50 states, and they are amazing, and they were really clear on you got to have no expectation that they're going to answer the phone, and you got to make that really clear to them. Otherwise, you need to pay them for the hours. The other way, and I told you I'd show you 2 different ways. The other way is that we may be able to help you solve that, and it's a super common problem. It's in every practice, and it doesn't matter if you're a GP, it doesn't matter if you're a specialist. I know in PPO Exit we have in this group we have a lot of folks who are specialists. So whether you're a specialist or a GP, either way, we can help you to solve that problem if you'd like. And I'm going to see if I can actually grab. Got a link down here. Let's see if I can actually grab that and throw it into the comments here. So yeah, I can do that. So I'm going to drop a link in right now. You can use that link and you can schedule what we call a phone assessment call. It's a 10-minute call. It's super short. There's nothing for us to sell on that call. It's just to figure out, is this something we can help you with? Our phone experts will basically talk to you for probably less than 10 minutes, ask you a few questions about your practice, your phones, your team, everything, so they understand what's being answered, when it's being answered, who's in, and so forth. And within 10 minutes, they can tell you, is this something we might be able to help you with or not? If you're live or if you're just watching the video replay as well, which was great, either way, if you would like us to reach out to you to schedule one of those 10-minute phone assessment calls, if you type UPC, which stands for Ultimate Phone Concierge, but if you just type UPC into the comments below, my team will reach out to you and see if we can help you, and they'll schedule one of those phone assessment calls for you. During your free phone assessment call, as I said, it's super quick. It's real easy. You don't need any data. You don't need any reports. They're going to ask you some questions that you can answer right off the top of your head, and by the end of that call, they'll have a better idea. Again, you don't need to be a GP. This is something where we help all specialties in dentistry and all GPs. You just need to be a dentist and the owner of your practice in order to have one of these phone assessment calls. So once again, type UPC into the comments if you'd like one of our guys to reach out to you, one of our phone experts. Hey, so thanks for being part of our PPO exit movement. Hope you guys have an amazing weekend coming up. And keep in mind, you are only one gem away. Take care, folks, and thanks for being part of our community.